when we went on air in November 2013, I think it was the 25th, the monthly running costs for wages of full-time people, but not me, the cost of rent, the cost of business rates, the cost of power, the cost of all the streaming of the programming 24 hours a day. That was running at £50,000 a month. And clearly you couldn't go on like that unless you brought in advertising and sponsorship. And without that, nothing was going to keep TPV on air for that long. I'm amazed it actually got as far as it did into July 2014. But the crucial thing was we needed sponsorship and we needed advertising. And the situation was that the crucial time in the life of TPV that was going to decide if it was going to go forward or it wasn't was the period immediately after we went on air, from November, December, January, February in 2014. And TPV has not made it because that advertising and sponsorship was not forthcoming. And therefore, every month to keep the station going, more money was going out than was coming in, and that can only end one way. And that's why we had to take the live programming down, Richie Allen's show, because the live programming was the most expensive. You need producers, you need people that are going to run the show, and they're working full time. So that had to go. And eventually this process of more money going out than coming in, like I say, was only going to end one way. So why didn't we get the advertising and sponsorship? Well, two main reasons, especially in that crucial time I spoke about. One is the information we were putting out. When you are challenging a system that serves companies and businesses that have the kind of money that can make substantial contributions to advertising and sponsorship, when you're challenging the system on which they prosper, well, they're not really keen on sponsoring you and giving you advertising and supporting you. And so we were left with small alternative companies, overwhelmingly, that don't have big advertising budgets and do not have the money to make major donations and sponsorship. But there was another reason, and I want to come to that. At that crucial time, across the new year, 2013, 2014, a campaign of unbelievable malevolence, mendacity, and vitriol was unleashed against TPV and people who work there. And this is how it came about. Sonia Poulton became a presenter of one of the programs on TPV. She's a freelance journalist who's worked in the mainstream media. And she didn't come full time until, well, couldn't be much more than 10 days or so before we went on air in November 2013. And she was all smiles and all that stuff up to that point, and for a little while after the start. But then, not just me, but many other people started to notice a pattern, and it was one of producers on her program leaving, staff being upset at the way they were treated by her. And it became more divisive when we did a telethon just before we went on air. This was, and because that she was not working full time but was doing her other work, she was not asked to present it. Richie Allen, who was working full time, presented it for obvious reasons. Now, Sonia Poulton then refused to appear on that telethon, making some excuse about one of the guests, Peter Tatchell, shouldn't have been on the show. But, you know, anyone with a brain looking on saw that she was miffed about not being the presenter. And then it became more and more divisive and more an unpleasant place to work. When you have a situation, for instance, where the presenter of a program is telling her team to have nothing to do with the team of another presenter's program because they didn't like him. When you have presenters complaining that I am doing a paper review every day on another person's program, and therefore that program would get a bigger audience than theirs, then you start to see that you are not dealing with someone who is putting the information and the ethos of the station first. There is another agenda. Anyway, it carried on, and people were trying to, you know, keep things going and, you know, keep the conflict as less as possible. Although the atmosphere was horrible. I mean, there were some very, very nice, genuine people that worked at TPV. But I got to tell you, I have never come across personally more poisonous, self-obsessed, mendacious, manipulating people than I came across in one place at the People's Voice. Anyway, things came to a head when we had another telethon at New Year, last New Year. And it was 5 hours, as I recall. And the first 2.5 hours was Richie Allen. And the second 2.5 hours was presented by Sonia Poulton. The first 2.5 hours of Richie's contribution was bright, it was quick, it was interesting, and it was very, very positive, very upbeat. But then Sonia Poulton came on, and from my point of view and the point of view of people who were running the station, the show became akin to watching paint dry. It was just four people just talking, and that wasn't what the telethon was supposed to be about. There's nothing wrong with that if you're discussing things, but that wasn't what the telethon was about. And you know, it got to the point where, you know, how long is this going to go on? So it was then decided, and the producer decided, that there was some moving pictures, a report that Sonia Poulton had done, that was supposed to go into that show at one point. So the decision was made, look, you know, we can't go on and on and on like this.